Suzette, we're going to ask you to make your way to the front. Ladies and gentlemen, she is the lady who want to ensure that you put your...
Forget Wi-Fi. Go tour and discover.
Alive has something new for you. At Alive, we know you have your crew, your squad, your friends. And the best of friends share everything, right? Even a network. So we're giving you cash back when you refer your friends to our network. Refer a friend to Alive and you both get $25 in credit for every successful postpaid activation. Get a friend to switch their prepaid number to Alive and you'll both get $10 in your Alive wallets. Spread the word far and share via email, text, Facebook, Twitter, and even your favorite messaging app. The more friends that sign up, the more awards you receive. It's the gift that keeps on giving. Visit bealive.com and reward your friends today. Terms and conditions apply. Alive. Believe in best.
And I believe in best.
By partnering with a service provider like Cloud Carib, organizations can get access to best-in-class technology and expertise while keeping costs controlled and service levels high. The cloud can bring innovation to any organization. Businesses are moving their IT environments to the cloud because it offers competitive advantages and controlled, predictable costs. With the cloud, your internal IT team can focus on core activities and you'll get SLA-backed performance. Cloud Carib is a managed and cloud services provider, empowering clients to have a private international presence when data residency is paramount. We're headquartered in the Bahamas and deliver service through regionally operated data center locations. We offer a complete range of modern cloud solutions that run on best-in-class technologies such as Cisco, Citrix, and VMware. And we specialize in working within several verticals. Reach out today to schedule a consultation.
Do you have a great idea for a business? You're just 3 steps away from fulfilling your dream. First, download the license application from our website or collect from our office. Complete and return with required documents and processing fee. Once you're approved, the next step is the inspection of your premises. We'll help make sure your location meets code and zoning guidelines to open. You'll also complete setting up your company or trade name at this stage. And step 3, pay your fees and you're licensed. It's really that easy. Welcome to our family of licensees. Visit or contact us today to get started with your business license at the Grand Bahama Port Authority.
Mr. Vasquez, Senior Engineer. This is our Tech Talk session, which is sponsored by Dell EMC. Our Tech Talk subject for this afternoon is the next generation. Again, our featured speaker, Mr. Julio Vasquez, Senior Engineer. Let's welcome him to the podium.
Hello, testing. It works, right? Okay. So you saw my picture over there. I had no beard. It's November. We're not supposed to shave, you know. We have to donate that money, so join the movement. It's really nice. So I need to make a couple of jokes. I mean, it's right after lunch, so I need to get you guys going. I'm not the kind of guy that will ask you to get up and jump around the whole place and stuff. But, well, I'm very happy to be here. It's actually kind of like my 4th or 5th time in Freeport. It's always nice to return. Actually, the first time I'm in one of these events over here, so very nice to have you. And, well, today we're going to talk a little bit about how to realize the transformation. So everyone has been talking about digital transformation. We've been hearing about digital transformation these couple of days, right? Yes? So how do you get there? Okay? The word digital is a little bit very complicated. It's a little bit overused. but there's typically not those baby steps into getting to the transformation. Now, first things first, technology is transforming. It transforms absolutely everything every single day. We use smartphones, we use smart devices, we use absolutely all sorts of different things that makes our lives easier and a little bit more complicated sometimes, depending on the use, but it works. But most importantly, it makes our lives different, and also the way we work. For example, as a joke, I went into Amazon and I was looking for smart devices. I found a smart coffee maker, so I could voice activate the coffee maker so that it will make coffee for me. You can have an air conditioner that is controlled by an app on your phone, so that when you're driving home, you turn on your AC, and when you reach home, it's actually very cool and chill. There's also smart washing machines. You already know about smart TVs. There's small refrigerators. Well, we don't have that available in our countries, but you can actually tell some company to come and bring you groceries whenever the milk is going down. All those sorts of things. Now, I am a coffee fan. Who here likes coffee? We all like coffee, right? Breakfast of champions. So, if I can have a coffee machine that is voice activated, why when I go to work I have to use paper? It's exactly that. So how do we go from gaining all those benefits that I have in my house to use them in my company? And that's the big question in the digital world. Now, a little bit of information. The average human attention span is 8 seconds. Before the smartphone, it used to be 12 seconds. And you know, a goldfish has 9 seconds. So we are 1 second slower than the goldfish. Yes, that's not a very good statistic at the moment. Now, a very good statistic, something that I actually like. We work whenever, wherever, and in any place. Sometimes we even work after hours. So if I can do my job at the office, if I can do it at my house, if I can do it at a coffee shop, am I happy? Yes. I get to take my kids to school. I get to prepare a meal for them. Well, I don't have kids, but if I'm in the Bahamas and I have Wi-Fi, I can sit down by the beach, answer some emails, and I'm a very happy person. Okay? So we want to be able to work anywhere we want. Now, data. That's one of the main concerns of absolutely everyone. Do you know that 90% of all data that we have right now was created under the last 2 years? And that's a statistic that just keeps rolling. I mean, every year, I think we just recycle that slide because it's always that same thing. I mean, we all upload videos into YouTube. When we go out, we take pictures and we upload them into Instagram so that our friends can see that. We download music via Spotify, all those things. So digital is here, and digital is about data. But also, that means more threats. If I'm using paper, if everything is digital in a system, it can be hacked, and it can be manipulated by someone else. And we all know about those scandals. I mean, I am Panamanian. Everyone knows me because of the Panama Canal, and no, not shopping, not shopping. Thank you. But the Panama Papers. There's even a movie in Netflix about that. So they stole a bunch of information, some lawyers got implicated, and everyone, well, it was a mess. But keeping your data safe is very important. Now, change is very important also. Change can be driven by technology, just like I can use my smartphone to talk to people. I mean, WhatsApp is a business tool. At the end of the day, I can talk to my mom, to my grandma, but I can also talk to my co-workers or to my boss or someone else. Change can bring in opportunity, and technology is supposed to be an engine for change. How can technology empower those things? Also, it has the power to transform industries. Did you know that the digital transformation is supposed to be the next industrial revolution? So it's that important. And it's not something that it's going to happen because we're going to have bigger machines and those things. It's because we have people programming those machines. Everyone fears the Terminator and those things, You need a human to program those things. I am very scared if a human is programming one of those killing machines. I mean, that's a different story. But you need humans to control those robots, to control those applications, to fix all those computers, to set up the satellites, to do pretty much everything. And hey, you guys live in a very pretty island. So what if you get to live on that pretty island, work from home, do some codes, make some money, and everyone is happy? You don't need to get up, go to a factory and work all day at the factory and then come back home very tired. You can just code while having a beer. So, digital transformation. Now, there's two words into that: digital and transformation. No one ever gets the whole picture. So when we say digital transformation, everyone usually thinks about Uber, Airbnb, Netflix, and all those guys. They're very big, right? They never went through the digital transformation. Never. They were born digital. So the guys from Uber, they wrote an application and they made an entire company around that application. All their processors, all the things, they were born digital. The transformation is for all of those of us that were not born into that. And we need to transform ourselves into the digital transformation. Do you know what's my favorite example? And we use it every single day. Anyone guess? It's related to pizza. You know the names. Who are the big names in pizza? No? Yeah! Domino's Pizza is by far my greatest example and my favorite. So, how many of you have been eating Domino's Pizza all your lives? Come on, raise your hands. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. It's Domino's Pizza. Have you ever seen them change their recipe? Exactly. They were about to go bankrupt a couple of years ago. Like, dead. What did they do? Did they change the recipe? Did they add more motorcycle deliveries or something? They went to technology. They developed the pizza tracker. It's the online web page and the application in your phone where you can order the pizza. It doesn't matter if it's very late at night. You don't need any human interaction. You don't need to call a phone number. You don't need to do anything. You select which pizza you want. You know that John put the pizza into the oven, that Paul got the pizza out of the oven, and Mike is going to deliver it to you at your house. Domino's Pizza had more growth than Amazon, than Netflix, and all those guys. I think the number was 2,300 and something growth. That's a lot of growth. That's a lot for a company that was almost about to go bankrupt. So is the digital transformation important? Yes. Did they change anything in their business? No. What is their business? Selling pizza. And they went for the crazy idea of developing an app and putting some sensors inside an oven. So what's the other message that I have around that? Digital transformation is something very personal to each company. Doesn't matter if by company we refer to a private company, government, or any type of institution. It's something very personal. Okay? It's not that you can go to someone else and tell them, hey, make an application that will solve my life. No, you need to know what are your pain points. How do you want to get closer to your people, to your customers, to your own employees? I mean, if you get closer to your employees, they will be happier and they will be working for a long time for you. If I can work from home, you can be very sure that I will not be leaving my company for another one that makes me drive 2 hours to work or something like that. So it's about changing the things and getting closer to what matters, to the business and to the customers. Now, I am from Dell Technologies, and Dell Technologies, I don't know if you knew about that, but Dell Technologies is comprised of 7 companies. 2 years ago, we merged with EMC, and we became Dell EMC. Actually, I work for Dell EMC, to that one. I mean, well, the laser is not pointing that much, but I work for Dell EMC, so we sell infrastructure. Our primary holding is Dell Technologies, and it's the umbrella that holds absolutely everything, and every single one of our companies. Dell, clients, Dell EMC infrastructure, and you can see over there VMware. I mean, most people don't know that VMware is one of our sister companies. I call those guys my cousins, because, well, if it's sister companies, they're my cousins. But we're all very friends, and that's the whole thing about the digital transformation. And how do we get there? First of all, as Dell Technologies, we believe in innovation. In the past 3 years, we have invested $12.7 billion in research and development. That's a lot of money. Yearly, Michael Dell pledged $4.5 billion for that matter. You know how much money HP spends in R&D? Half of that. IBM, the godfather of technology, they spent 2.8 in the last 3 years combined. Who is making the research and who's trying to make your lives easier? Us. You can see how many patents and applications we have regarding that matter. We need to make your lives easier so that you can make the lives of everyone else easier. Now, regarding leadership, we are number one in servers. We are number one in laptops and PCs. We are number one in open networking. Yeah, networking and Dell, that's a strange word. Not general networking, open. I can give you a switch. You can install any operating system you want on top of that switch. You can install Linux. You can install one of the big brands. Everyone loves Big Switch at the moment. It's the same operating system that runs on Netflix. You can have the same OS as Netflix running on your data center, obviously on our hardware. We are number one in storage, both primary storage, also in object storage, file storage, all those things. We enable the cloud. We enable cloud management. We enable the hybrid cloud. We don't want to do that for you. We want to empower you so that you can have all those things and develop your own stuff. Now, going a little bit into why we're actually in business and why we want to help you. Pretty much application drives business value. Everything is regarding the applications. We all want the apps, correct? Yes, we all want those apps. Now, all those applications, where do they live? They live on top of a cloud. It could be a private cloud, it could be a public cloud, or it can be a hybrid cloud. Where do clouds live? IT infrastructure. I mean, and please hear me out. One of the funniest things that you can ever encounter, everywhere you go, is when people talk about the cloud. People think that the cloud is actually a place. There is no physical place called a cloud. A cloud is a model of consumption of IT resources. Will I consume mine or someone else's, or only someone else's, or only mine, or a little bit of in between of all those things? I hope there's a bar called a cloud. It will be really nice to go to that place. Otherwise, the cloud runs on IT in some premises. The whole idea is to have a very easy way of knowing how am I consuming things and how much money I'm spending on that. Now, who uses those applications? Us, the users. It doesn't matter if it's my application for my company. It doesn't matter if it's Dropbox or Netflix or anything. We, the users, use the applications that run on top of the cloud and on top of the infrastructure. And obviously, all those things need to be secured. If you don't secure things, you get hacked. You get your information gone, and then you have very unhappy customers. That's the reason why we built Dell Technologies. Why? Because when you do the complete transformation, digital is about the applications. IT transformation enables the digital transformation. You need the hardware and the infrastructure to be able to run the cloud and to be able to run the applications. You also have to do the workforce transformation. Has anyone heard about workforce transformation? The users, the employees, the people being able to access any information in anywhere you want, by whatever means you want. The same application I have in my laptop, I have it in my tablet, I have it in my phone. It doesn't matter the place or the time. I just have access to my things. I have mobility. I have freedom of choice. I can bring my own device. I can use your device. If my device gets stolen, well, it gets nuked by my IT department, I get a new one, and I have all my information there. Workforce transformation is also very important. Do you know that in the future, I mean, at the end of the day, we will all be replaced by millennials? Any young kids here? No, they're not here. I saw them walking around the place. But we will be replaced by those kids. And when we are, hey, they choose places with good technology to work. If you give them an ugly laptop, they don't want that. They want to have all the speeds and feeds, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And finally, also the security transformation, because obviously we need to secure every single device in every single way. Now, how does Dell help you? Our 7 companies are aligned to that. Dell, the same brand that you've always known. We cover the laptops, the clients, the workstations, and all those things. Dell EMC, where I work, we have the servers, the network, the storage, the backup, the hybrid cloud, and all those things. VMware, they have the software stack. So you can automate all those things and deploy your applications either on-premise or off-premise. And I mean, this is the Bahamas. You're one of the few countries in the Caribbean that actually has a cloud provider. Every other country, they just say like, nah, I don't like the cloud because I have to go to the US and Trump. No one from the US here, right? That was not a political statement. I am Panamanian, working for a US company. But I mean, it's a concern in the Caribbean. It is. I mean, you don't want your data leaving your country, but you need to have that flexibility of using the resources that you have in the country. You have them, use them, please, by all means. Also, little known, we have our own private cloud called VirtuStream. Those guys, they were born out of the necessity of a mission-critical cloud. So, I mean, you have the Googles, you have the Amazons, but if your services are up or down, there's not a contract for that. We can guarantee 16 nines of availability. In the data center, usually you try to go for 5 or 6. These guys offer 16. Around the globe availability. You can even choose geographical locations for some applications, but that's a different story. But we have that covered. One of my favorite, Pivotal. No one knows about Pivotal. Those guys, they release Cloud Foundry to the market. If you are developing cloud-native applications, you need to know about Pivotal. They pretty much invented the book about that. So they will teach you how to develop the application, launch it, maintain it, and remove it. So it's a very nice story that we have around that. And also, finally, security. RSA, they're ours. How many of you use RSA? Probably you don't know it, but you use it. Token authentication and all those things, build your own command center, that's all RSA. We also have SecureWorks, a bunch of ethical hackers that are monitoring your systems. I mean, you cannot have a single guy knowing about security and knowing every single trick in the market. These guys have hundreds of people knowing every single trick on the market, and they're monitoring your infrastructure. If you want to do a pen test, if you want to have monitoring, if you want to have social engineering, those guys will disguise themselves, go into your company, and try to sweet talk the secretary or someone else and try to get into your database, just because you pay them to do that. And then they will tell you all the vulnerabilities that you had. Okay? Finally, if you need the services, obviously we can help you. We can help you build your cloud. We can help you build your applications. We can help you build pretty much anything that you need. I mean, we're the biggest IT company right now at the moment. So the idea is to help you realize your future. I am very happy about all the discussions that you've been having here for these past couple of days. I mean, teaching the young guys about technology, that's your future workforce. They need to know about programming, either to work here or work somewhere else. I mean, it's the future of absolutely everything. If everyone is going to be replaced by robots, you want to have your own people controlling those robots. You don't want anyone else. So that's pretty much what I have. I hope you guys have a nice day or a nice rest of the afternoon. Happy to be here. Hope to return here for the next couple of years. I don't want to go anywhere else. So thank you, and keep enjoying the weekend and the day and everything else. And remember, Dell Technologies. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Julio. Ladies and gentlemen, we want to give Julio an extra special round of applause because Dell EMC is one of our major sponsors for this year's Grand Bahama Technology Summit. Our takeaways from this presentation: Dell represents digital transformation, diversity, innovation, and leadership. Thank you very much, Julio. As we transition to our second Tech Talk, and I think we're going to make up some time so that we can have our party on time tonight, I want to invite to our podium our second presenter, Mr. Alexi Stringent, Director, Systems Engineer, Latin America and Caribbean. Our topic, intelligent data. Our second presenter.
Hello, everyone. Hello, guys. Well, thank you very much for coming and staying here for this tech talk. My name is Alexi, and I manage the technical operations in Veeam Software in Latin America and Caribbean. I've been working for Veeam Software for almost 9 years. Initially, I was working in Europe, basically. Afterwards, I was moved to the Middle East. I've spent 5 beautiful years working in Dubai office of Veeam. We also work with lots of the governments, of probably like nine different countries. In the past 2 years, I worked for the Caribbean and Latin America, and it's my great pleasure to be the first time in Bahamas. Thank you very much for very warm welcome. So you heard a lot today about the digital transformation. I don't have to tell you that, we all have phones, that we all connected, right? So imagine this 20 years ago. If you want to send a message to someone, you have to write an email and wait, the mail, that you have to wait for another 2 weeks, to be delivered to someone. Now, I have my friends living on another side of the world, on a different time zone, and I express my feelings in about a second, with a WhatsApp and all that stuff. My mother was the power plant. It was the second person in power plant of the city where I was living. And I remember when I was standing in the queue for probably an hour to pay my electricity bill, right? What happens right now? I just come to know that my electricity bill was paid. I just got a text message. So this is so easy. I've been living in the countries where, you didn't have to go through the immigration. You didn't have to put any forms. So the countries that adopted the digital transformation, where you have to go and, let's say, just put the card in it, your card that you have, your ID, and then scan your finger, and then a face recognition system detects that this is you, and a finger is verified, and it lets you go. So straightforward. But there are the challenges that governments and the companies experiencing when they go to the digital transformation. People need a confidence in their digital life. The confidence is, imagine you have your phone down for a couple of days. How are you going to feel today, all of us? You're going to feel disconnected because you connected to your bank account, you connected to your airline, you connected to your maybe government online services, right? You're going to really feel bad. I did the trick to my wife, I've actually hidden her phone and I tried to see what's going to happen in the next hour. And once she figured out where is the phone, all she was doing for the next couple hours looking for it. It was insane, because people can't really live without it today. But the problem is, one of the problems is on the way to the digital transformation is, when we provide these services, they have to be up all the time. We can't really afford, experiencing any downtime. That's the reality of the situation. Imagine Delta Airline lost about $100 million. There was an official article when their system was down and people couldn't check in the airport, they couldn't get their flights. This is something terrible. And we had a Twitter down, we had a WhatsApp down some time ago when we were not able to send those messages. So people really feel frustrated. Second thing, that data that we collect is becoming hypercritical today. Because, look, we do a lot of things with the governments, we duplicate all the things on the papers. But when we're going to go paperless, imagine what's going to happen. Imagine how critical is that data. Imagine your tax return. I don't know if you do it in Bahamas. Imagine the revenue services loses that data, or any criminal records, or anything, and all that data becomes extremely critical, especially when we don't duplicate it on the paper, when we don't have another archive of that data. Second thing, what we experience when we go to the digital transformation is a hyper growth of the data. Remember your IT department maybe 10 years ago. What you had? Maybe you had a couple of servers, and you were saying to the business, okay, we're done, we still have everything on the paper, right? And it was okay for you to get the server back online maybe in a week. Everything was acceptable. Right now, no, unfortunately. And what we have experienced is a hyper growth of that data. I speak to some banks right now, I speak to some governments, and I'm asking them, guys, how much do you grow right now, year over year, in the amount of the data that you generate? And I hear things like 30% year over year, because we have a backup solution, and we plan for them the backup repository, right, for example, and we're asking them, how much do you grow? And we're shocked sometimes, the organizations and the government entities, they're growing so fast. Yes, because when you're going to put these technologies in your offices, the technologies that's going to serve your citizens, they're going to grow in data. You're going to grow your servers, your data, and all that stuff. That becomes a challenge to manage as well. The other thing is the hyper sprawl of that data. You know, I'll tell you the Veeam example. We have our own IT. It's about 350 ESXi hosts. I don't know how many virtual machines we're running, but I know that we run it across like 5 different data centers, and we have our mail system in the Office 365. We have our client management system in Salesforce. It's in the cloud, right? We use Amazon services, right, for our websites and when you're going to go download our software, because we can't find a location that will provide a link for 100,000 downloads within 24 hours. Like, we don't really have it, so we have to use those services. And what happens is that the data is really across different locations, and this is also complexity. When you want to protect this critical, hypercritical data, right, and it's across the different locations, you gotta have a solution. You gotta have a single pane of glass. You gotta understand what is going where, and you gotta really think how you're gonna protect it. So the reality of that digital transformation and what you guys want to do and what are the companies doing is the hyper-availability is the new expectation. So this is why I work for Veeam Software. I work for Veeam Software because we have a great vision. We want to be the most trusted hyper-availability platform for you guys, so you can trust the solution that they can protect the data. And it can meet your requirements of the hypercriticality. So I would like to welcome you. For those of you who do not know about Veeam, and I would like to speak, say some words about the company. The company is with headquarters in Bar, Switzerland. It is a European company. We have a few R&D centers which are also in Europe. We have 3 global support centers that are covering the whole world, which is in Australia, in Europe, and in the United States. So if you guys use our solution and you open the ticket during the daytime, you get into the US support. In the nighttime, you go into the support in Europe. We have 320,000 customers right now, globally. It's a really, really big number. About 60,000 channel partners. And it is being used by 80% of the Fortune 500 companies. Those are really, really big companies, and they rely on this solution to provide that hyper availability for their digital transformation, for their data, for their services. What is the greatest thing about Veeam as a company, is about a product, is that the Net Promoter Score. So if you look at the Net Promoter Score of Veeam is a 73. What does it mean for you? It means the people who were using the solution were given a really incredible feedback. Because if you look at the backup solutions in the industry, the average Net Promoter Score goes from 10 to 30, and a Veeam Net Promoter Score was like a 73. So this is the key to our success. So what was the key to the technology is the innovation that we were developing. But driving the innovation in the backup recovery space and the disaster recovery space took us to getting the leading position in the growing our presence on the market. If you look at the IDC report that shows you that Veeam is a leader in growing, at 28.7 for last year, H2. And we have a new updated report for this year where you see Veeam is growing. We're growing over 60% in Latin America and Caribbean, by the way. In Latin America and Caribbean, we have a team of over 80 people right now. They're spread across LATAM. We have some people in Atlanta, in Miami. I personally live in Miami right now. We've recorded 60% year-over-year revenue last year. We're growing even stronger this year. And we have currently over 8,000 customers in Latin America and Caribbean who are using this technology. How did we do it? Back in 2008, we have released a really great product that was for VMware. So back in those days, we realized that the virtualization is going to be the future. We had an EMC guy talking about VMware today, but VMware actually did a great stuff in the virtualization. They did something. I remember myself when I saw the vMotion first time, I couldn't believe it. The server goes from one host to another host, right? This is a technology. What happened in 2008 is we have developed a solution that was protecting the VMware workloads. In 2012, we increased our solution, and our messaging was, enabling the availability across the data center. Because we were thinking that availability is not only just the backup and restore, it is a backup, it's a DR, it's a monitoring and reporting. It's way much more than just having your backup done, okay? And today, what do? We're developing the intelligent data management platform. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. So if you look at our platform, that what we've developed is, our core product is a Veeam backup and replication. So this product supports your virtual environment, it supports a physical environment, you can back up your infrastructure, you can restore the servers, the data, you can replicate your virtual machines to the disaster recovery site or to the cloud. You have a monitoring and reporting platform for that infrastructure. You have backup for Office 365. You have availability for Amazon. There's availability for the Azure clouds and whatever. The core of a Veeam technology was the backup and replication and a Veeam availability suite product. So backup and replication is a solution that is designed to back up and restore your virtual machines and also to replicate your virtual machines to the disaster recovery site. When I was working with the government of one of the Middle East countries, and these people, they use different vendors to protect. So they use one vendor to have, the backup and restore, the other vendor to replicate the data to the disaster recovery site, and another vendor to do the failover and the failback orchestration. Then they had another vendor in the product to do the monitoring and reporting, and they could replace all these solutions with just one product from Veeam, which is the Veeam Availability Suite. So the value that we were delivering, the key to our success was having a really great value from the product that would address all your needs on the data protection. Back in 2010, we have released technology, and this was a groundbreaking technology at that time, and even today. Imagine, you could be running VMware or you could be running the Hyper-V. What we've done is we've developed the technology that if your server goes down, you're going to get the server back online immediately. So your recovery time objective would shrink dramatically. So we work right now with our customers, and Veeam does the backup of a 10 terabyte file server. And then the customer is losing the 10 terabyte file server, and then he's going to Veeam system, and he's clicking restore. Will you believe it? 45 seconds, that server is online. So the digital transformation and the expectation of the customers and expectation of the citizens, if you provide the government services, is that you cannot be down, unfortunately. So that technology was developed in 2010. The other technology was developed, which is called Veeam Sure Backup and the Sure Replica. What does it mean? Okay, let me get down to earth and talk to you simple language. When you have your backup, right? So today, you use something, you have your backup. Your backup is right there in your backup file, right? I'm going to ask you just one question. How do you know that in this backup, the operating system of that production server doesn't have a blue screen? Simple question. How do you know? You don't know, right? How are you going to find out? When you restore, right? And that's the problem. The problem is that the people find out that the backup doesn't work when they restore, and it's too late. This is how people can potentially lose the data, which is hypercritical. All right? This is how people can provide a downtime. Like one of the big banks of a country that I was working in, they had a critical system, and that system was down one day. Something happened, and it was running in one of the virtual machines, and something happened to that virtual machine. It just got corrupted. So that system went down, and the guys were using the traditional backup tool that they had before. They went, they restored that system, they waited for a few hours, they started, and it's in a recovery mode. Operating system cannot boot. They go back again, they choose another restore point, they copy that, restore it, and then again. So they spent no one went home. There was a night, no one went home. By the morning, they decided they're going to deploy that application from the scratch. And they were opening support case with the vendors and all that stuff. So there was a downtime. The huge downtime for that application was almost 2.5 days. And by that time, their call center wasn't able to take calls. And it was super critical for them, right? So then they remembered, oh, I remember that guy, Alexei, he was talking about sure backup. Let us call them. So they called us, and we have implemented this technology. So what this technology is, when your backup is complete, you got one report saying backup successful. But then you got another report that your backup actually recoverable, that you can restore. Because what it does, it actually starts everything in a virtual lab. It will verify that your virtual machine is working, operating system is working, the application is working, and is giving you the report. So if the audit guy comes to you and say, can you show me that you can restore? You will say, with pleasure, here's my report. I know that I can restore. So this was a groundbreaking technologies that we've done. One of them was a virtual lab. We call it the data labs. Well, imagine tomorrow you have a production system. It's a critical. You don't want to touch it. It's running, right? You got a new administrator. A new administrator would like to come and see how that system is configured, would like to, test something, probably do the upgrade of that system and whatever. So what you can do with Veeam Data Labs technology, if you can take that system and start it in the virtual lab straight from your backup, and that person will be able to log into that test environment and go and see it. So that will be clone of your production running in a lab environment, and you will be able to go to test the modification, to install any upgrade of the system and see if it works, and so on and so on. It's a really great thing. So many customers who are using Veeam, they have it as a policy. Well, before you touch that production, you're going to make sure that you run it in the lab and you test it, and then you're going to go and touch your production. Well, you request the downtime from the big boss and saying, it's a Saturday, I'm going to need 15 minutes downtime because we're going to be restarting that systems. You're going to make sure that it's going to be 15 minutes. It's not going to be a week, all right? You can use a storage snapshot because the solution also integrated with the various storage systems from EMC, from Dell, from NetApp, Pure Storage, and whatever you guys choose. What else we have developed? We've developed an agentless backup for your virtual machines and various recovery options. Like you can do the agentlessly backup all that virtual machines and can recover the Active Directory item. You can recover an email, a single email, a database. You can recover an Oracle database without the need to use the Oracle RMAN technology, for example, because Veeam has an Explorer. You'll just go and browse that database and you can restore it. So you can recover different files, pretty much all the systems support it. There is another technology that we have developed. You know that using Veeam, you can replicate your virtual machines to the DR site, but imagine you have no DR site. You have no location, but you need your DR. What are you going to do? Easy. In Bahamas, you can call our partner, Cloud Carib, with whom we had a great pleasure to work. In the Cloud Carib, they have a Veeam Cloud Connect technology. So this technology, what it does is that you just go to the Veeam server and say, add the cloud provider. And you'll say, I have my DR at that cloud provider. That's it. You configure your replication, and it will go and replicate your virtual machines. And then you configure your failover plan. So if my site is down, who's going to start first, and then the second and the third from your servers? And then when your site is down and you're sleeping at 3 a.m., and someone is calling you and saying, look, the site is down, you're going to take your phone, log into the Cloud Carib portal, and say, start. Just click the button, and your site can run in that cloud. This is really good. Or you would like to copy your data. As many people say, we don't want to copy that to the United States, right? But you can copy it locally here, or you can use Cloud Carib in Panama, for example, the data center. So you can have a copy of your data which is secured with AES-256-bit encryption. So this data is completely encrypted, and no one can decrypt it, only you, okay? What else do we do with the solution? So you have a backup, you have a restore, you have replication, you have failover, failback, you have a cloud, right? You can send your backup to the cloud, you can send your virtual machines to the cloud, you can failover, failback. But availability, in our understanding, for the availability, this is not enough. So what we have developed is we think that the availability should have a great monitoring system in place. So you should be able to monitor your environment. I work a lot in Caribbean, and sometimes I'm coming to the Caribbean customers, and they have, issues. They have, something not working, and they have terrible issues, and they They have 3 support cases opened with the different vendors. Okay, this is storage. No, this is servers. No, this is networks. And the people can't figure out what is going on. And we're installing our system, which is called VM1, with the complete visibility. When we install it, we detect it immediately. It straight away gives you the alerts. Oh, that was your storage problem. Oh, that was your network problem. This is so easy. And, really our customers in Caribbean appreciate that system really, really much. You have a real-time monitoring, reporting, resource optimization, chargeback, audit, which is very important, when you work in the government. It can get you audit reports. Every single click can be captured what you've done in the infrastructure. Or, for example, someone went and tried to restore an email, that have to be captured. This is very important for the audit people. So we do have a great success story with the government of Bahamas. Together with the Cloud Carib, the Veeam solution was deployed across 5 data centers, and Veeam is offered through the Cloud Carib to the other organizations in the Bahamas. So feel free to reach out to the guys and talk to them. What is the future? Okay, you have availability, right? So you have your monitoring, you have your reporting, you have your backup restore, you have your lab technology, DR side, and so on. Well, what we believe is you have 5 stages of the intelligent data management. The stage 1 is the backup. You need to do the backup and you need to restore, right? Second stage is aggregation. This is when you have a hyper sprawl for your servers. You have multiple sites, you have services in the cloud and everywhere, and you need a single pane of glass to protect it all, okay, and make sure that is recoverable. Stage 3 is a visibility. Is when we have a sprawl, we really need to monitor everything from the one console. We need to monitor some services, we need to monitor the storage and the VMware infrastructure, for example, right? And we need to have a visibility and control because we have different new things coming, like GDPR policies, your data have to be inside or outside. We need to have that visibility when we grow because you're going to have a lot of data, a lot of servers when you deploy that new technologies. Stage 4 is the orchestration. Orchestration is that seamlessly you can migrate this stuff across the things, right? Now you can go and back up that physical server with Veeam, take your backup up to the Amazon, for example, and migrate it. You would like to migrate back, you can migrate back. You will need orchestrations when you have a productions and a DR side, We have some customers in the Caribbean who have multiple sites, and they replicate from one site to another. And they want to have an orchestration platform, one single platform, to see all that replication workflow that is going on, and then they would like to click and do the failover. So all these things are available with a Veeam Orchestrator product. But what are we doing right now is we go into the stage 5, which is the automation. So when we talk about automation, imagine, guys, you have ransomware attack today, right? And you have Veeam product. Well, Veeam will tell you that, oh, you got a ransomware, because our monitoring system will immediately tell you. It will get you alert. You are affected. Its data is encrypting. So you can go to the Veeam backup and you can start this virtual machine immediately online, and in a seconds it will be running, right? But what if solution detects it automatically and does it automatically? Or what if solution detects that your network bandwidth here is not good in taking that server and moves it to the Amazon, for example, web services automatically? Or what if your solution detects that there is no changes in that server happen through the day? Why do I need a backup? I don't need a backup because there is no changes, right? I already have a backup. Or that server generates too many changes, so it does the backup each 5 minutes. What if it intelligently detects all these things? What if you're just going to bring your product, let's say, and put it there and say, okay, back up this environment? Simplicity. Our solution is so easy to use. Each administrator sitting here can implement it easily. But we're just aiming to simplify it way much more and to bring you the intelligent automation. So we are here to instill the confidence in the digital lives of the citizens and of the users for the companies and the governments every time and every place. Thank you, guys. We're going to have more technical sessions. Please join us at 2:40 in Royal Palm 2. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Alexi. We have learned so much about hypergrowth in data, the hyper-availability of data, our walkaway or our takeaways from this presentation, policy-based transitions to behavior-based transitions. A lot to think about. As we transition into our second Tech Talk for the afternoon, I think we have another giveaway. Okay, so I would ask Olivia from Cloud Carib to make her way to center stage. Well, she says she'll do it from behind the scenes, so if I can ask her to I'll give her the mic. How about that?
No, this is a different giveaway. Yes. Oh, so we were giving away an Amazon Echo Dot, and the business card that won is actually Lynette from Falco. She is here, but I think she's at the booth. We're also giving away, which is our biggest prize, the Google Home, and that goes to Theodore Nixon. Congratulations. Thanks, guys.
So to our lucky winners, for the rest of us, don't give up yet. We still have at least 3 more giveaways before our day concludes. As we transition to our third Tech Talk for the afternoon, I'm going to ask Mr. Charlie Fink, consultant with Forbes Contributor, to make his way to the podium to Tech Talk and share with us the evolution and revolution of technology. Mr. Charlie Fink, let's welcome him to the podium.
Good afternoon. So this is going to be a bit of a speed talk because I only have 20 minutes, but I'm from New York and I talk very, very fast. There's a lot of material to cover. I'm going to talk a little bit about my first book, which is about virtual and augmented reality, and get into some of its uses today and its use cases, and then talk a little bit about tomorrow, because virtual and augmented reality represent a huge disruption in computing, and it is a topic and a technology which is already seeping into things that we're doing every day. Won't dwell on my bio. I'm actually going to skip over a couple of slides pretty quickly, just in the interest of time. But this slide is important because I have lived through many disruptions, starting with the audio cassette recorder, which came out when I was a kid. And video cassette recording didn't come out until I was in graduate school. So I come from the Stone Age to the future. But it has taught me a few lessons which form the filter through which I view the technology industry. And these are things that I know are true. Technology succeeds when it takes what we're already doing and makes it better and cheaper and faster. There's no better example than Amazon. People are the killer app. We look at our phones 400 times a day. That's an incredible statistic, isn't it? And it's because we want to connect with other people, right? What are you looking at your phone for? You're looking for your messages. Messenger, the #1 app in the world. You're looking at your social media. You're looking at your email. And maybe you'll do news and games, but communications is the #1 use of mobile computing. And then the other thing, it's really important when talking about new technology to put it in perspective, right? The first video cassette recorder when I was in graduate school, that was not recently. These things take a lot of time, more time than we think, especially when you're talking about a paradigm shift to something like spatial computing, where your glasses are your computer, that you're wearing your computer. This is a very new idea, and until the form factor really is like this, it's very unlikely to spread the way the mobile phone penetrated. So these things take a long time. The people in this room, you and me, probably we won't see that world, right? I like to say that I am planting trees under whose shade I shall never sit. But my children will, and your children will. So this talk is about the world that they're going to live in. Just a quick note on my book, it's an augmented reality book, which is a very new idea. So you read the book with your smartphone in your hand, and you hold it over certain markers in the book, and out pop animated characters, there's augmented art. So let me show you how it works. Hello, I'm Charlie Fink. I'm a futurist and the author of this book, which you can judge from its cover. It's full of AR fun like this. So keep your phone handy as you check out what's inside and join me on this journey. Let's dive in. Let's have some fun. So the blue background there, thank you. The blue background there would be this room if I were doing it live, because of course in augmented reality, reality is the most important element. So what did I learn from writing an augmented reality book, aside from the fact that making an augmented reality book is 4 times as expensive as making a regular book, because you have to make an app. So you're not going to see too many of them. Publishers hate them. But AR is a tool that makes humans better. And it is very hot right now, whereas VR has been struggling to find a toehold with consumers, although it's got many interesting applications in enterprise for training and simulation. But with consumers, it hasn't caught on yet, and I'll talk about that in a little while. But AR is really hot because everybody has got one of these. So everybody in this room can do mobile AR, and in fact, you're already doing it, you just don't know it yet. And finally, this idea that the world is going to be painted with data. So in the future, every person, every place, everything, even a simple book, will be covered with an invisible layer of data that you will at first reveal with your smartphone, and then ultimately that will be translated by a wearable device. Because in mobile AR, the camera is the interface. And this is the really big paradigm shift, where all of a sudden the digital version of the world that you see in your camera is now clickable. So that we will have, if you will, a Wikipedia for the real world, so that any person that I click on, any place, together with geolocation, will reveal this hidden layer of data and animation and interactivity and programs that we currently get through apps. So a little bit about language. There are a lot of initials, a lot of things to keep track of as we think about virtual and augmented reality. Oops, what's happened to me? Oh, there we go. Raise your hand if you are not confused. There is a good reason that you're confused, because we made you confused. Once upon a time, in 1994, there were 2 computer scientists, and they were trying to figure out the relationship between virtual and augmented reality, and they said, oh, well, they're on a continuum of interactivity. Or, sorry, a continuum of immersion. So over here you have physical reality, and then it gets augmented, augmented, augmented until it's virtual reality. So when I first heard this, I thought it made a lot of intuitive sense. And in fact, Microsoft liked it so much they stole it. And they called it the Microsoft Mixed Reality Spectrum. Well, hello. There we go. So, and conveniently for Microsoft, their products map perfectly against this. So you got the HoloLens on one side and Windows MR VR. Why you would call your fully occluded VR headset an MR headset is still beyond me, but it has contributed tremendously to the amount of confusion over all of these names and labels. So people in the industry came up with the phrase XR, and XR means everything, right? XR is augmented reality, XR is virtual reality, XR is any kind of wearable, any kind of watch. It all fits under these initials XR. I railed against it. I thought it was a terrible idea because the last thing we needed was another acronym. You know, it's like becoming like the Army already with CompExSoc and complicated words that only people in the Army know what they mean. But I finally gave up fighting against it, partly because I lost, even though I was completely right. But also because these are temporary words, right? These are kind of inside baseball, if you will, words that, like the World Wide Web, we will come to think of as anachronisms 10 years from now, right? The World Wide Web is something that an old person says and it's kind of cringeworthy. That's the way we're going to feel about XR, AR. one of these days. So, as I said, covers everything under the sun, micro displays, wearables, watches. Here's a key idea, though, and it's the reason I think that Milgram scale is so useless, because it doesn't take into account the uses of this technology and the sources of this technology. VR and AR are not the same. They don't belong on the same spectrum any more than Final Cut Pro and Microsoft Word are on the same spectrum, because they both run on your PC. Virtual reality has its roots in campfire stories and cave paintings and theater and religion, heaven and hell, right? Man's need to immerse ourselves in another world, another reality that perhaps is better or even worse than this one. Its traditions extend through dark rides, in theme parks, movies, television, books, anything that requires our willing suspension of disbelief. AR, on the other hand, is a tool. AR is like a shovel or a club or a steam engine or an airplane or a computer. It is a tool that makes men better, like my smartphone makes me better, right? I'm a lot smarter with this thing in my hand, and not just because I'm an old guy. I have access to all the knowledge in the world right here. So it is augmenting me. So I think that the definition of augmented and augmented reality is much broader than just glasses, because what we're really talking about is the augmentation of humankind, right? Glasses are just a waypoint on the way to ubiquitous, invisible, wearable computing. Now, AR is, another reason that AR is widely misunderstood is that it comes in many flavors and many modes, as opposed to VR, which is just one thing, which is a headset that occludes reality and replaces it with a digital reality. But AR always requires reality to exist. Without reality, there's nothing to augment. So in the phrase augmented reality, reality is actually the most important word. And there are a lot of different flavors of AR. The book uses a kind of mobile AR called marker-based AR. So I have computer vision in the book program, and it recognizes a little symbol on a page, and it knows to place the augmentation, the animation, onto that marker. It anchors it there, which is something that ARKit does also, which is a technology that runs on Apple phones. AR Core is the Google version. And all of this is just to anchor the mobile AR in place. So it seems to be inhabiting our world. It's got a little shadow. All of that is made possible by the computer vision in the phone. There's another way to do it, which is persistent geolocation. That's Pokemon Go. It's about to get a lot better as geolocation, as new phones have something called SLAM, spatialized location and mapping, which uses computer vision in addition to geolocation. Because you know, with Google Maps, it's like 15 meters off, right? When you're walking down the street trying to use it, it's next to useless. You could walk, 500 yards in the wrong direction before it tells you you're going in the wrong direction. So all that's about to change. And then, of course, there are head-mounted displays for augmented reality today, but they're not really for consumers. Nonetheless, AR is all around us. Most new cars have heads-up displays. Pilots have had them for years. Here's one of my favorites. Right? The movies always kind of predict a general direction for where things may be going. The best example was in Her Majesty's Secret Service, which is an old James Bond movies from the 60s. One of the big scenes at the beginning is he looks at its watch, and it's a digital watch. And I remember I was about 10 years old when it came out, and everybody in the theater went, you think about that today, right? So here's the Terminator. He's using a combination of artificial intelligence. It's called linguistic branching and augmented reality. This is an experiment Microsoft did to allow two people to be virtually present in the same place. It's done with a series of 3D cameras. And they cheated a little bit because there are tremendous technical problems in doing this because of bandwidth. Because you have to compress the bandwidth going in and decompress it coming out. And what it really looks like is the people look like they're victims of a Star Trek transporter accident. But when we get to 5G and other kinds of technologies that don't require, that much brutality to the signal, we should get images like this one. The Defense Department uses a system to create holographic meetings. That's me having a holographic meeting with someone using the Pentagon system. Who's the hologram? Everybody says me, but it's actually the guy in the blue shirt. Sports vision. Couldn't watch sports on TV without sports vision. Augmented reality, right? And the players occlude the yellow line. Pokemon Go we talked about, because there's a cascade that technology takes, right? It starts out in the military where it's really expensive and super specific, and it does one thing like night vision very good. And then it goes to enterprise, and again, businesses don't mind spending $5,000 or $10,000 on a computer if it's efficient and it helps accomplish a job, whereas consumers would never do that. And then, of course, consumers, when we get a device, we want it to be a Swiss Army knife, right? So what I would say is a military application is like a switchblade, right? You open it up to do one thing like night vision, and then you close it up, flip it up when you're done with night vision. But for consumers want a Swiss Army knife, right? Because my phone is a computer, it does email, it's a compass, it's a calculator, right? We want our devices to do it all. And you wouldn't buy one that doesn't. It would be like the old days where, my backpack was filled. I had a camera in there, I had my iPod in there, and it's just my backpack was like a giant electronic junk store. So what's going to happen? What does a world painted with data really look like? Well, for one thing, especially, it starts to become city scale and world scale. So all of a sudden you're in Miami or even in Freeport, and you're scanning the street and you see where restaurants are, you see their menus, you see their specials, it gives you wayfaring directions, and you will become used to doing this even though the form factor is absolutely terrible. This is called paper hanger syndrome. Because you really can't do it for very long. So what we'll be doing is we'll be snacking on AR as it gets better and better. The holy grail of augmented reality has been popularized by a company called Magic Leap, which was a very secretive startup funded with $2.5 billion from people as varied as the Walt Disney Company, Google, and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And the whole idea here is that, here I'm going through, skipping slides, form factors we talked about, micro displays. This is, by the way people are making money in augmented reality today when they say it's a multi-billion-dollar business, it's because of this thing, right? Because it makes, if you do any kind of assembly, warehousing, distribution, augmented reality can help you, because the way that somebody works in a warehouse, right, has got a clipboard and an RF gun, which, by the way, they leave all over the place. People rarely end the day with the right RF gun. And they have to put them away when they find the SKU and take it off the shelf and walk it to the factory floor, right? Every factory has a warehouse. But with augmented reality, he doesn't need the RF gun, and the worker doesn't need the clipboard. It's all up here in this little TV hanging in front of their face. So that's where the dough is right now. Boeing uses this for the wiring assemblies in jets and saves over $2 billion a year. And that was a project that cost them less than $1 million. This is the Magic Leap Creators Edition. So they call it the Creators Edition because it's for software developers, because it's got nothing on it. So basically you have to make the software yourself. But it is a true combiner, and by that I mean a kind of augmented reality which digitizes reality and anchors both the real and the digital together, combined in a new reality. However, it's not really ready for prime time. Apple, Huawei, the giant Chinese cell phone maker, is now getting into the augmented reality glasses. So we're going to see quite a bit of competition in this area, probably heating up around 2021 when Apple Glass launches. Billions of dollars are being invented. I mean, nobody wants to be left behind in the fourth wave of computing, of spatial computing. So today the money is in our hands, but tomorrow the money will be on our face. So let me talk about VR just for a quick minute and why it isn't really taking off for consumers right now. If you would ask me, a year ago, I would have told you, well, it's not, it's got a wire, it's not cheap enough, there's not enough software. Unfortunately, none of that is true. The real reason VR hasn't taken off is that nobody knows what to do with it, right? If it's not a game machine, what is it? Why do you want it in your house? So there's plenty of hope for VR. Among other things, 5G is coming. 5G technology is an order of magnitude faster. It's not 100 times faster. It's not 1,000 times faster. It's 5 million times faster. So that means you could download a Netflix movie, a whole Hollywood movie, in 8 seconds. It means zero latency computing. So you don't need your hard drive anymore. Your smartphone could be a screen, a gyroscope, a GPS, and a battery. That's what's going to happen with 5G. It's really going to revolutionize computing. So I do think that VR is reheating, and it's not going away. It's a real thing. I don't know when it's going to be a consumer product, but I know that it is being used by more and more industries. We will see it in location-based entertainment, in arcades. It will be used in education. I think kids will, it's like the personal computer. And I guess that's something I'll end on, which is it's been my contention that VR and AR are following the development pattern of the personal computer, which took 20 years to penetrate 10% of American homes. Why did it take that long? Well, it needed to meet the internet to become something more than a work productivity machine. And the internet has 4 killer apps, right? Email and communications, e-commerce, search, and social media. There is no equivalent for virtual reality today, which is why I say people don't know what to do with it if it's not a game machine. Several speakers, my friend Amy Peck brought up earlier, these technologies don't exist on an island. There's no VR island. They're highly independent with each other. The quality of the experiences requires AI, it requires miniaturization. There are power issues that have to be addressed. Bandwidth is a really big issue. We are on our way to glasses like this, but again, it's not an end in itself. It's a waypoint on the path of augmenting ourselves as humans. So 5G wildcard, that's going to be fun. 3D volumetric future of movies and TV. So imagine you're watching a basketball game and you have a courtside seat. And imagine that you don't want to have a courtside seat. So you go like this, and now you have a God's eye view of the game. So sports, I think, is really going to become dramatically better as a result of this technology. And again, requires 5G because volumetric movies are a heck of a lot bigger than the 2D movies we watch now. So that's the end of my talk. Thank you for listening. I think we are going to see a great future together. And I hope that I'm wrong and I do get to sit under that shade someday with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie, for your most provocative session, your tech talk, dealing with VR opportunities. We understand that it's big and it's tomorrow, and we're all a part of this with our Grand Bahama Tech Hub Summit. Before we move into our third Tech Talk, we have a giveaway, and I'm looking for some assistance. Those of you who may have not had an opportunity to share your business card, there is an opportunity at this time. We have about 3 more prizes of giveaways. We have Suzette, who's walking around. Get your business cards handy. And while Suzette does that, I'm going to invite to our center stage Mr. Paul Kayla-Tiud. Paul is representing Palo Alto Networks, and his tech talk will focus on life in the digital age, cyber attacks. Suzette, did you get all of the cards? Please hold your hands up real quick so that she can quickly come by. And I would say the last person to drop their card in will be the person to pull that lucky winner out. So I see about 2 more hands up, Suzette. Of course, she's going to shake those cards up before that person pulls it up. All righty, and here we go.
Thank you, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here, enjoying the weather. I'm from Minneapolis, so I think there's probably snow on the ground when I come back home. So today I'm going to really talk to you about a topic I'm very excited about. It's my day job, it's my career, but I think it's a really important topic in regards to the idea that digital transformation helps create so much opportunity and revenue. But at the end of the day, my view is that what's going to create sustainable innovation is the ability to maintain trust with consumers, whether it's citizens or whether it's employees or the enterprise. And trust is not done independent of the innovation. In order to maintain sustainable innovation, you need to have consumer trust and confidence in the technology that it's going to be used in a way that doesn't create harm. And the way you do that is through cybersecurity. So in my view, securing digital transformation is really about sustaining a digital transformation strategy, sustaining the innovation around it. An example of this could be clearly self-driving cars. We've heard about this through other people's talking, but again, anytime I see any new innovation, I quickly say, what's going to be the acceptability of it? When is it going to be adopted? And when are we going to trust getting in a car and a machine is driving us to our destination? All of that gets really quickly put into question when there's a successful cyber attack against a vehicle or against any type of technology. So I don't know if you guys know this, but a lot of the self-driving cars are using AR and using this visualization, but they're looking at the environment around you, and one of those things is a stop sign. So when it sees a stop sign, it recognizes that, and it applies an algorithm basically stopping the car. Interesting enough, some hackers have been testing how do you trick a car. And so what they found is that if they change the letters, using white tape or something on a stop sign, they can actually trick the car into thinking that's a speed limit, a posted sign. So the car is going to actually maybe increase and accelerate when it sees a stop sign. In this case, it's not a stop sign anymore. So just examples of the way I think. So when I think about cloud, right, I just want to kind of base the audience on just making sure we are all talking about cloud in the same regard. I find that it's as clear as fog, right? It's kind of a play on words on clear as mud, but in this case, it's the cloud, so it's foggy. And what I mean by that is that people think cloud is a physical location. Some people in my family think it's actually in the sky somewhere. But I look at it as a strategy, right? And it's independent of any being or any location, right? So a lot of people think cloud is AWS or Google or Azure. And we heard from Veeam, it could be private, it can be different. So all of that's true. And to me, that means it's really about a strategy. What are you going to do with your digital transformation, and how are you going to achieve that strategy? What's driving digital transformation, in my opinion, I think at one point it was cost, it was efficiency, disaster recovery, availability. These are all very important elements of digital transformation. I argue that in today's global economy, this is actually table stakes. It is the requirement for the speed of business. In other words, if a company today has any level of digital transformation concepts, they're not thinking about whether or not they need to do this. They're thinking, how do I do this in order to stay competitive, right? So it's actually mission critical. It's no longer, what do I do to drive costs down? In this case, digital transformation for a lot of organizations is, What do I need to do in order to stay in business? The other thing that really drives cloud, again, as far as a strategy, not a location, is automation. Right? So we have lots of technology now, and if the business wants us to go very quickly, what we're really trying to do with cloud is we're trying to take advantage of principles that focus on orchestration and automation. So that's where the technology starts to come into the view here, which is how do I actually build a digital transformation strategy? What I'm really trying to say is how do I make my business move quickly, and how do I take my IT services along that journey so that I don't slow down the organization that's also moving faster. And lastly, it's really this idea of on demand, right? So we have created a business consumption model that creates expectations that technology is on demand. So that's a big element that drives digital transformation for companies is what they're really trying to give their business units and their internal customers is quick demand so that they can do things faster and in regards fail faster, right? So if it takes many, many months to develop an application, release it into an organization only to find that the consumers aren't really liking what you designed, the result is you have to go back to the drawing board, rebuild and repipe and develop that app until you, and this is the iterative process of application development. So when you're talking about on demand, you want that application to be as quick as possible in the hands of consumers as fast as possible, and the result is quicker feedback, which creates higher iterative processes. And this is what creates more competitive differentiations, because what you're trying to do is quickly prototype on that product so that the customers get exactly what they need. Okay, so that's just my little background on what I think of when I think about cloud. So where is the cloud journey for you guys in this audience? You know, I look at it as a private cloud, right? The private cloud is, again, it's a strategy, and the focus is to meet the needs specifically of the region, which is, you know, you don't want to necessarily have to be dependent on internet connections that are across different property lines. You don't want to have maybe data classification or privacy concerns or third-party governments being involved. And so the strategy that's being deployed here is I would categorize that as a private cloud, right? And that private cloud that I'm speaking about is the GNet. And this is I really get excited about organizations that think about this because, again, I see sometimes organizations, they think, okay, I'm going to do a digital transformation strategy, so I need to pick a vendor and I need to go after the cloud. The reality is that most organizations that I have conversations with within Palo Alto Networks, their CIOs are on a digital transformation journey, and most of the time, if they go through that process, the end result is a hybrid organization where they have on-prem, or they have a private cloud, or they're in public cloud, but it's usually a mix of everything. So to me, private cloud is really important because it creates that internal interaction between the customer and removes variables around whether or not this is on-prem, off-prem, or in the cloud. Because if it's private, it's essentially being managed internally. So the GNet has, today, it's connecting 215 sites across multiple islands. And there's two main data centers. One's located in Nassau, the other one's in Freeport. And it's supporting today 65 critical applications within the institutions here, 18 different ministries, and 500 virtual machines, right? So that's kind of the current footprint. The other one is G-Voice, and that's connecting over 10,000 users today. And there's a capacity for 20,000. And that's really important characteristic when we talk about cloud is, again, it's that on demand. So if we have a conference and you have all these people that are interacting in a very aggregated location, you want to be able to burst, you want to be able to scale, and you don't want to have weeks or hours of waiting for that. So it's powered by Palo Alto Networks, and it's being operated by Cloud Carib, and they're just giving you kind of a visualization of where their presences are. And really what Palo Alto Networks is doing is really focusing on protecting this private cloud. And again, my view is the goal isn't to create another place for technology as a destination, but how do we make sure that this cloud is being secured in such a way that the the confidence and trust is maintained. Because that's where things get really, really make or break for, again, for innovation. So what is, just transitioning quickly, I'm just trying to keep us on track. What does it mean to secure a cloud, right? Again, whether it's public, private. And so I look at these as objectives, right? So when I'm thinking about what your goal is in quote unquote securing a cloud, this is independent of whether or not you have ownership or whether or not you're using third-party vendor. This is the things every cybersecurity program needs to be focusing on when they think about how do I protect my cloud. And the first and foremost thing is it's about visibility, right? And visibility is usually achieved effectively through what I call unified security. So the goal is to make sure that within a cloud environment, often you're not fully responsible or have insight into the technology supporting it. The result is a lot of organizations aren't really aware to the full extent of what's actually occurring within their cloud instance, if you will. So CISOs need to be very cognizant of, I guess, getting back control by maintaining visibility. So this is all about verification. And the word unification of security is a reference to the idea that certain technologies are more equipped to service a hybrid cloud or private cloud and on-prem, and we call those unified security solutions, Palo Alto Networks being one of them. And the goal is that if I want to manage a traditional infrastructure, I want to be able to have a certain technology lens into that, and if I go into the cloud, I want to be able to use the exact same technology to achieve the same goal. The result of that is what we call unified security. The alternative is you have what often I sometimes see is some organizations will go down a digital transformation strategy, and they think for some reason either security isn't necessary, which is very dangerous, or they think that it's specialized in such a way that they need to bring in new technology, which isn't always the case. Because if you bring in specialized technology just dedicated to cloud, you get sometimes vendor lock, so it's just specific to Google, just specific to your private cloud instance, which can be a problem. The thing that I get concerned about the most is, do I understand how to govern that technology? If it's different, what I end up having to do in a hybrid cloud scenario is I have to reconcile two different technologies and bring it back together. One might be a traditional firewall or some sort of security product. One might be a specialization or a set of APIs, and I don't have any management, and I'm trying to figure out how to reconcile that. Because at the end of the day, whether or not you're in someone else's cloud or a private cloud or a shared service model, the one rule to always remember is you can never outsource risk. So even if you're using a third party and they're providing you all the security and trust that you think is necessary, at the end of the day, you need to have accountability to manage that. And this is where that insight is really critical. Another key objective is this idea around dynamic and on-demand security, right? And this is really just in alignment to the business goals and the IT goals, right? We talked about cloud being really focused on demand and really focused on agility, making the business quick or being able to allow them to be quick. Sometimes if you take traditional security, which doesn't understand cloud, or you take technology security process and you put linear thinking into the cloud, the result is, I'll always remember a role as a CISO that I had where the CIO, we spent about $2 billion building our internal private cloud. And the CIO would get up in front of all the employees and say, it took 12 weeks to get a server, now it takes 5 minutes. And I quickly realized at that point during that speech was it still took my security team 2 weeks to respond to any change request, even in the cloud. So we weren't actually getting 5-minute SLAs, we were getting 2-week security review change management. So the point is that when you think about digital security, digital transformation, you really have to be very cognizant of the fact that things are moving a lot quicker. So when you're thinking about security, you cannot think about it in traditional fashion, because the result is security becomes the bottleneck for any digital transformation strategy. And this is the number one pain point right now for a lot of CIOs is they look to their security team and say, hey, are you going to secure this? And they say, yep. And then they bring in all this legacy process And the CIO goes, well, I didn't gain any speed from this investment, so what's the ROI? And so, again, the idea here is that you have to be thinking a little bit differently about some of the technology because it needs to be what I call cloud aware. Now, sometimes vendors are sneaky, and I'm now a vendor, so I guess I can point to myself, but I used to be just a normal CIO, CISO for 18 years, is this idea of cloud. Everyone wants to get on this bandwagon, and so they'll say, well, yeah, I'm a cloud security company now. And then you ask them, well, what does that mean? Well, I used to have a physical device, and now you can virtualize it. And that's, to me, not a cloud security product, because all they're doing is telling me that they can take their software and they can deploy it on different types of platforms. What you're looking for in this idea of kind of on-demand native security, if you will, is that the product needs to be hyper aware of the environment it's operating in. And so if I look at like a product that we have that's what I'll call cloud native, the way it interprets a firewall rule is not how the network is defined. It looks at the objects inside the environment and says, well, if I have a single web server, here's my firewall and here's the requirements to protect it. Now, if that developer in 5 minutes provisions 130 apps behind it because of demand and elasticity, that firewall should not require any human intervention. It should just auto-scale. It needs to be able to grow. And that's what we're getting at with this principle here. Third thing that's really important is discovery. You think that you've gotten past CMDB and asset management in the cloud? Think again, because what you end up finding is even less understanding of inventory in the cloud. And the causality of this is really around that speed, right? So if anyone with a credit card can provision server in 5 minutes, I can have 1,000 systems, then the question becomes, what do I have in my cloud? What's it talking to? What's the communication? In traditional models, it takes weeks again to get a server. A lot of that time isn't actually building the server because that comes in the back of a warehouse. It's plugging that thing in, provisioning the network, working with all sorts of engineers to try to get this thing in the place. Well, a byproduct of all that communication is a lot of people understand what just happened. But if you eliminate a lot of the human process and you increase the speed it takes to actually fulfill a request, the result is a lot of people are like, I don't know what's in there. 2 weeks ago there was one server, now there's 500. I don't know what happened, right? Because your goal of actually getting to speed of business is, from an IT strategy, is actually to remove yourself from the process as much as possible. But the point is not to remove yourself from governance, it's to remove the human elements and then reconcile that on the back end with visibility. And in this case, asset discovery. The other thing that you want to do is you want to make sure that the multi-tenancy, the segmentation is being thought about. And a lot of times this trips up enterprises because they start very small. They might bring 1 or 2 apps or 1 or 2 development teams or a part of the community into the environment. And then they bring a second and they bring a third. And the result is that you've got, in some cases, a lot of applications that don't actually need to talk to each other. And most importantly, applications that maybe ought not to talk to each other because they're using different security controls. One might be for developers and have full access. The other one might be a payment credit card app, and you want to segment that. So segmentation is a really important element for digital transformation. And I think it's also an opportunity. So we haven't really talked about the real opportunities, but a lot of organizations struggle with creating these segmentation strategies on-prem. I used to be the deputy CISO for Best Buy, and I was responsible for trying to isolate all the credit card flows in my environment. So did I know where credit card data was? Absolutely not. So we spent a lot of time trying to discover where our credit card data was in our company. And the minute that we discovered it, the first thing was go back to the business and say, can you stop doing that? Do you need that data? And if they said, no, we need that data, then I had to figure out how to move that application physically from one side of the data center to another because it was behind a firewall and I was trying to create some sort of isolation. Well, the advantage of being in the cloud is also a tremendous opportunity to do security in a very meaningful way, meaning if you've got virtual networks and virtual assets, and you want to segment with a virtual firewall, there is no movement. That's the beauty of the cloud. And so you can actually get very aggressive with isolating and segmenting and doing things that, again, in normal situation, a physical environment, sometimes these things were just cost prohibitive. When I wanted to put a firewall in every single Best Buy store, it was $50 million of labor just to get to every single store to put in a router into every single store. Now we're in a world that's completely different, right? And in some of our customers, we have cloud offerings and SaaS offerings. They don't even need physical equipment in their stores anymore. Walmart and 7-Eleven, specifically as examples, we're working with them and we're removing physical assets from their stores because we can now offer cloud-based firewall services in their regions, and so the stores are just communicating back up. Very similar to the 5G conversation we just had in that previous presentation. Once these networks get really quick, the dependency of data from security policy also can get removed. So just kind of transition a little bit into where I see things moving in regards to the vision for either governments or citizens and kind of where we're going. The first thing is this concept called cyber moonshot. So this was something Palo Alto Networks kind of came up with. We pitched it to the White House, and they recently agreed on it. So the goal is to help protect the internet within 10 years, right? So the vision here from a security perspective is we need to make the internet safe, period, full stop. It's a problem right now, and it's very, very difficult to achieve this. So we have to have conversations to start getting people thinking differently about what it means to consume technology. And a lot of it is about how do you build a comprehensive trust strategy so that citizens trust that the data and the technology that's being used to help make efficiencies can actually be used in a way that isn't the Facebook Cambridge Analytica issue, right? So we keep shooting ourselves in the foot because everyone wants to collect data and do all of this goodness, but then, you know, where's the checks and balances? So the cybersecurity moonshot is something that we started, but basically we've opened it up to nation states, and there's a couple of countries now that have agreed, and they've said, yep, we want to be a part of it. It's pretty vague, but that's why it's called the moonshot, because you know, JFK president, one of the US presidents said, we're going to go to the moon. And that was it. There wasn't a very detailed technical conversation about how we were going to get there. There was a vision statement, right? So the vision statement is, we're going to protect the internet in 10 years. We don't know how we're going to do it, but let's start having meaningful conversations. So that's happening. I envision that you're going to start to see clearinghouses, right? So when I think about cloud and digital, we talked about the advantages of how you can get really aggressive with cybersecurity. I also think there's a tremendous opportunity to take advantage of cloud to help with traditional security challenges. And one of them is cyber intelligence. Cyber intelligence is a really big problem in the industry right now because we don't have a lot of information, and we're not really good at sharing information amongst our peers, right? So it was very against culture for me to have a conversation with Best Buy and Target in a room about how we were both going to solve PCI. And the goal wasn't how do we compete on retail, it was how do we compete on defending against people that want our credit card data. So we all have a very common enemy that transcends beyond our competitive businesses, and that is there's an adversary that wants our data. So digital transformation creates tremendous opportunity to start thinking differently about how we share data. And part of that is because that data that we have intelligence on, which is in our environment, is now in a cloud, potentially. And if it's in a cloud, I can start sharing that data with other people. And that kind of leads to this concept that I call security transformation. And that is a play on digital transformation. So I hear a lot, people talk all the time about what it means to be in the cloud and how it's advantageous for organizations. Again, my job is to take the good and see what the bad looks like. And I get really fascinated right now with this idea that we have an adversarial transformation. And that is that attackers are very much aware and looking at how they can use cloud against you, right? And so what that looks like is that could be AI or artificial intelligence or machine learning and all these concepts, again, that are used in talking about describing digital transformation, and they're being used as ways to attack us. So this gives hackers the ability to do things at the speed of business. In their case, their business model is a little bit different, but they're motivated to use that technology because there's an economical ROI on their side as well. The point I'm trying to make is that even if you don't agree that digital is important to you or your organization, you do have to be very cognizant that attackers are taking advantage of that same technology, and they're starting to use it against organizations. So my hypothesis here is, or my recommendation is that security organizations need to be very keen on how to protect digital, how to protect your organization's cloud, but independent of that, they need to be thinking, how do I scale my security? How do I scale defense? Because I can tell you every single CISO is very challenged with lack of talent, lack of resources, and they're very limited for whatever reason, either under budgeted or a lot of times they just don't have enough talent. So they need to be thinking about how they take digital and make it part of their defense strategy, which is automation, machine learning, using all these types of techniques, because it's going to scale, and most importantly, it's going to be the only way you counter an adversary who's using the same method. I look at it as simply as, do you show up to a fight with a gun, with a knife when they have a gun? No, you need to have the same technology that's being used against you to defend you. The last thing I think that's really exciting is this whole idea of kind of digital identity, right? So I start thinking about, okay, let's digitize technology, but really we need to maintain trust. And the way you maintain trust is you start to build in an ecosystem that allows for trust to be established. The United States is really bad at this because we have so many different institutions that want to own your identity, right? I used to work for a healthcare company, and they thought, you know what, we have a really good understanding of what a patient looks like. We own the identity. And obviously, everyone probably has interacted with a login at a website, and they say, enter your Facebook credentials or create an account with us. So we know who you are because of Facebook, right? Well, if you know anything about Facebook, I can be John Smith, and I can be located anywhere I want. So it's not a trustworthy verification process, right? So there's a big challenge there, which is that governments really need to be spearheading this to make sure that they can establish the rules for what it means to be adjudicated and be verified, and once you get verified, you can move forward. A good example is the Canadian government. So the 5 banks in Canada all agreed that they were going to be the source of truth for identity. Why? Because every time a citizen wants a bank account, they have to go in person and get identity proofed and verified, and so there's an issuance there that they can rely upon. And now they have once they issue an account, they can give you a digital identity, and from there they can then create a circle of trust. The result is that now the government can accelerate all sorts of really interesting things. And this is really, really important because there's a tremendous amount of harm that occurs within these ecosystems. Once you go digital, like when you file your taxes, well, guess what? You have identity theft. You have people that are filing on your behalf, or you have healthcare fraud, because if I can steal your name and social security number, I can file claims against you in a different healthcare system, and no one's talking to each other. So what I'm visioning here is that organizations need to start building these clouds. Clouds create centralization of data, which creates the opportunity for data exchange, which results in reliance and trust. Meaning, if I can take this portal and I can call your Wells Fargo login or US Bank login or whatever financial institutions you have here, and I can create reliance on that, then I can verify you and trust you, and I can start building in acceleration. If not, again, these things quickly erode, because the minute the voting machine goes online and Russian hackers are attacking the system, the integrity of the system goes down very, very quickly, right? And so this is where the trust is how I think you sustain innovation. And I also think it's a strategy for what I call digital acceleration. And that is where you can start to really create global reach, because as you start thinking about the idea of having digital storefronts and being able to let innovation accelerate at a society level, all of a sudden the innovation is limitless. You're not bound to traditional resources or traditional consumer reach. You have the ability to have innovators create apps that can reach a global scale. So all of a sudden, the economic value that you have within this region is limitless. It's limited on your ability to reach that organization and at what speed. So now you're starting to think, okay, how do I create a digital accelerator for my commerce and for how my businesses need to be thinking about the future? It's not limited to how do we create enough real estate so that commerce can occur? That's linear legacy thinking. We have to think differently now. And the other thing that a lot of times people are focusing on is this idea that intellectual property and knowledge can now be shared. And what we call it in the digital world, we call it democratization, right? So at one point, companies were valued on whether or not they had information on you. We're now getting to a digital era where the data becomes abundant, and the value isn't on whether or not you can create the most data, it's what you can do to harness that data that creates new value. Example of this would be Kodak, right? At one point, we all thought every time we clicked a picture, we needed to make sure it was the perfect shot. So we spent a lot of time on film classes and artists, and we had an economical model that said every time I take a click, it's 50 cents, whatever it happened to be. Well, what happened was the digital camera came and completely democratized photos, and now you have an abundancy. Well, where did the economic value shift? It went to Facebooks, it went to, I forget, Picasa, and all these different websites and commerce sites that said, look, I'll take all your photos and I'll make them meaningful and manage them, and you can share them and collaborate. So we went from having limited resources, which was how many pictures can I take and what's the cost value of transferring that to a photo, to I've got an abundancy, but I'm still willing to pay. And in some cases, I would say the photo management business, which doesn't charge consumers anything, people are paying lots and generating lots. I mean, the value of Facebook versus Kodak, I mean, as in just one example. So with that, I'll close and just say thank you very much, and I appreciate my stay within your wonderful land.
Thank you, Paul. You gave us so much to look forward to, particularly for me, the cyber moonshot. Very interested in getting more information. Ladies and gentlemen, as we transition to our workshop sessions, just a few announcements. So we have a opportunity for you. There are 3 opportunities, as a matter of fact, with our wrap-up workshop sessions. And so the first, which will be in the Royal Palm Room, A Better Experience in Working with the Government. And this is being done by Oracle with Mr. Daniel Vasquez. In Salon 3, Shaping the Future of Mobility, Shaping the Future of Education, Gender, and Work, facilitated by V.M. Ware, and that will be hosted by Denver Palmer Brown. And right here in our main stage area, we will have our presentation,
My name is Amanda
Cybercrime, facilitated by GIBC, Mr. Phil.
So it's a mother-daughter team. We started in 2010. We make premium chocolates using gourmet chocolate and adding the twist with Bahamian recipes and ingredients.
December 2007 is when the brewery opened. In 2004, Edward St. George invited me up here to Freeport, and had breakfast with him, and he begged me to come to Freeport to put up a brewery.
Falco is a company that was founded by Curtis Fowler, my husband, and really it was just a pipe dream in his mind. He was just trying to move parcels for customers, pickups, and with all this water around us, what better way to expand our services and our business by getting into maritime?
GIBC Digital is a consulting company. We've evolved and developed 5 competencies: data intelligence, cybersecurity, customer experience. We still do regulatory and compliance work, and we also do process engineering and automation.
Goombayland first opened its doors in 1989, and we were open for approximately 7 to 8 years. We closed our doors after my father's passing. It's been closed for 21 years. Recently, the family decided that we wanted to create an avenue for children. All great communities have family fun centers.
The reason why I came to Freeport was the differential in duty on the taxes that one pays to produce beer. If that differential did not exist at that time, we wouldn't be having this discussion today.
The good thing about having a business in Freeport is obviously being able to set up a bonded company.
One of the things that excites me about Grand Bahama is there's so much room for growth.
Grand Bahama is an island of untapped resources.
There's a great and underutilized infrastructure in Grand Bahama. I think the second thing that was important for me was the people. The third thing was the government's support for creating a tech hub in Grand Bahama.
But at the end of the day, until we start to eliminate the negative environments that we've created in our minds, we really will not overcome any of the challenges that we're facing today.
We couldn't have done this without favors from God.
There are always challenges when you make an investment in a new area, but the Bahama Investment Authority did a great job helping us understand how to navigate the system.
We're always corresponding with the consultants and professionals throughout the world when there are challenges.
There's a lot of wealth in this country. This place is designed to carry such projects as this and feed the rest of the country.
I really have a lot of hope for Grand Bahama. It's why I'm here.
I think 10 years from now, Grand Bahama will be known as Silicon Island.
The minute that we start to stop thinking just local and start to think on a broader spectrum, I really do think that a lot of businesses will start to turn around.
People have a drive to make Grand Bahama better, so we have to be the change that we want to see.
I'm a firm believer in Bahamians first. We have to encourage the younger generation to build this country.
The Commonwealth of the Bahamas is located approximately 50 miles off the coast of Florida, north of Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, and Cuba. Our capital city, Nassau, is located on the island of New Providence, and Grand Bahama Island is home to the city of Freeport, which we refer to as the nation's second city. The Bahamas is one of the world's oldest parliamentary democracies, having a stable government and an established, respected legal system, as well as an English-speaking population of nearly 400,000. Grand Bahama's close proximity to the U.S. East Coast makes the island conveniently located for international business. Freeport has two major ISPs with independent terrestrial, subterranean, subsea, and wireless networks. We are also becoming H-1B friendly and actively working to assist U.S. companies who employ foreigners via H-1B visas. In the city of Freeport, you can experience the peace and tranquility of a tropical lifestyle with all of your necessities available and accessible. Our nation's second city has superb communications infrastructure, so you're always connected. In the early development of the city of Freeport, the Grand Bahama Port Authority created the Hawksbill Creek Agreement, which established Freeport, the port area, as a free trade zone. Under the Hawksbill Creek Agreement, business owners enjoy the benefits of a tax-neutral jurisdiction. There is no capital gains, real property, or corporate income tax. We also have a wide variety of public and private schools, both elementary and secondary, as well as our very own University of the Bahamas. Our schools and university are committed to maintaining modern and strong curriculum standards to prepare our people for a growing job market. Bahamians are also among the most technologically savvy people in the Caribbean. We proudly boast having Bahamians who are at the cutting edge of innovation and technology, several of whom are presently employed in Silicon Valley. The Bahamas is currently finalizing programs for blockchain-based solutions, fintech, and cryptocurrency companies, and intend to promote blockchain as a sub-industry within ICT. Our jurisdiction can be promoted as a cybersecurity hub to operate in Grand Bahama. In June 2018, Grand Bahama saw its first venture conference focused on blockchain technology and cryptocurrency. The Commercial Enterprise Act enables the government of the Bahamas to streamline business applications and adapt immigration policy to facilitate new technology businesses. Whether it be to store data or to manufacture state-of-the-art technology, We anticipate that projects like these will be a doorway to other business owners and manufacturers to come to Grand Bahama and explore the endless possibilities of technology. Freeport is especially suited for development, as the completely pre-planned city has not yet nearly met its capacity. Undeveloped, unpolluted land and buildings are just waiting to be utilized in the city of Freeport. Freeport is home to the University of the Bahamas' northern campus, as well as the Bahamas Technical and Vocational Institute. Additionally, Freeport houses the island's highly reliable power company, as well as a massive harbor, cruise port, and container terminal. Freeport is one of the most unique areas of the entire Bahamas, being that it is managed by the Grand Bahama Port Authority, a private city management organization in conjunction with the national government. The Hawksbill Creek Agreement enables business licensees in the port area to benefit from a number of incentives, including electricity and exemption from capital gains. The Freeport Container Port boasts the deepest container terminal in the region. The 24-hour-a-day facility serves as a major transshipment hub between the U.S., Latin America, and Europe. Freeport proudly boasts advanced building codes, some of the strongest in the Western Hemisphere, and a communications infrastructure that has withstood major hurricanes. The Bahamas is open for business and welcomes you to discover all that we have to offer.
Can you imagine living in a society where the people are friendly, your palate can be engaged with authentic Bahamian food, all well steeped in rich culture and tradition? Imagine working in an environment that's relaxing, surrounded by white sand beaches and sparkling blue warm waters. Yes, it's the Bahamas, an archipelago of 700 islands and keys, geographically located in the Atlantic and 50 miles off the coast of Florida. Yes, this can be you. Is it your desire to establish a commercial enterprise within the Bahamas? Here's what you need to know. The Bahamas government has introduced the Proactive Commercial Enterprise Act, an act aimed to ease doing business in the Bahamas and assist entrepreneurs and companies to establish bases of operations in a streamlined fashion. The Commercial Enterprise Act requires a non-Bahamian to make a capital investment of at least $250,000 and allows Bahamian, non-Bahamian partnerships. Work permit approvals are provided within 14 days, which allows for management and in-house professionals to be granted work permits for up to 3 years. The Commercial Enterprise Act is designed to attract certain kinds of businesses. These include captive insurance, reinsurance, mutual fund administration, arbitration, wealth management, international trade, international arbitrage, computer programming, software design and coding, bioinformatics and analytics, maritime trade, nanotechnology, biomedical industries, boutique health facilities, data storage or warehousing, aviation-approved maintenance operations, aviation registrations, call centers, manufacturing or assembly facilities, and many other concessions related to our economic zone. The minister can identify any island or any part of any island as a specified commercial enterprise zone for the purposes of encouraging infrastructural investment for efficient land use or the creation of areas for commercial development. Visit www.investmentbahamas.com or call 242-352-8525 for more information on the ease of investing in the islands of the Bahamas.
The Office of the Prime Minister Grand Bahama was given a mandate in May 2017 to focus on the redevelopment of Freeport as an offshore technology hub, similar to Silicon Valley. As a result of this mandate, our office hosted the first Grand Bahama Technology Summit in November 2017, right here at the Grand Lucayan Convention Center. It was held under the theme, Grand Bahama, the Gateway to Innovation and Technology. The summit brought together local and international stakeholders who began to shape policy and set forth technology as the third pillar of our economy. Presentations were made from business, government, and academia. These presentations were inspirational and paved the way forward for this important initiative. 1 year later, we have made significant progress. Immediately after the summit, the Grand Bahama Technology Hub Steering Committee was formed, with Dr. Donovan Moxey serving as chairman and Christy Powell as vice chair. The committee immediately began strategic planning meetings and produced a comprehensive plan which was presented and accepted by the Cabinet of the Bahamas. The committee's plan focused on the overall vision for our technology hub. It began to set objectives such as increasing tech entrepreneurs, providing more opportunities for Bahamians, and increasing investment. It also provided a growth strategy. It gave us immediate opportunities, such as producing a special visa, one we could call the H-1B visa, and also embracing blockchain and cryptocurrency technology by having a blockchain and cryptocurrency conference. It also gave us a long-term strategy. The government has begun to embark upon this important plan, and we will continue to execute it until we see the fruits of our labor. The government also began to focus on our local schools, and in December, local school Sunland Baptist Academy participated in a Day of Code, which exposed students to the basic coding skills. In January 2018, the Prime Minister and a delegation traveled to Austin, meeting with Google, Dell, Gearbox, and other tech executives. As a result of this visit, tech giant Dell has agreed to host a major conference for approximately 2,000 executives in the Bahamas in 2019. In March, another delegation traveled to Washington to promote Grand Bahama as that technology hub. And in April, the delegation attended CHOGM in London, which was another of several successful trade missions that took place throughout the year. In May, GIBC Digital, a global technology firm, announced the opening of their Freeport office. GIBC confirmed that the Freeport office will serve as a global training headquarters. In their release, GIBC also committed to a $2.5 million investment and the hiring and training of 50 Bahamians. As a result of one of the recommendations made by the Steering Hub Committee, in June, the Office of the Prime Minister hosted its first venture conference, which focused on blockchain and cryptocurrency. The government realized the importance of the blockchain and cryptocurrency technology. The conference brought together locals and internationals who were focused on this important topic. We heard from world-renowned speakers such as Michael Casey. The conference also paved the way for the creation of the Bahamas' regulatory framework. In July, ITEL BPO, which has been doing business in Freeport since 2013 and is a Caribbean tech call center, announced its expansion of its Freeport operations. In its announcement, ITEL BPO committed to hiring an additional 100 Grand Bahamians, 25 of which have already been hired. In July, the government, in collaboration with the Bahamas Technical and Vocational Institute, launched a 3-year ICT summer program, which started with 9th graders. These students completed year 1 of the program in August and will continue year 2 next summer. Students were exposed to cybersecurity, ICT, Linux, Unhatched, Python, HTML, JavaScript, professional performance, and ethics. This initiative was a direct result of the Prime Minister's vision to ensure that our young people are exposed as early as possible to technology skills. In July of this year, the government of the Bahamas also took the enormous step forward in ensuring that our Bahamians were trained. BTVI was made free for all Bahamians. This allowed Bahamians to take courses such as Business Office Technology, Information Technology Management, Software Engineering, Networking Engineering, absolutely free of charge. 1 year has passed, And in Grand Bahama, we've made significant progress in establishing ourselves as a technology hub. However, there is so much more work to be done. We are only at the beginning. So welcome to the second Grand Bahama Technology Summit. Remember, the future is now.
I'm Mick Holding, and I'm the president of the Grand Bahama Chamber of Commerce. We are the advocate and the voice of our members, and we represent them in dealings with government or the Port Authority or other stakeholders.
I'm Sandy Sawyer, known as Sawyer's Fresh Market, Sawyer's Food Supply. We recently celebrated our 9th year anniversary in the food store business.
My name is Sam Teicher, and I'm one of the founders of Coral Vita. It's a company that grows corals to restore dying reefs.
My name is Barry Malcolm. My company is Global Fulfillment Services Limited. Our focus really is on business development, and we work with both international and domestic investors on projects that they have an interest in the Bahamas.
I'm Magdal Saldenbeck. I'm the general manager of Pelican Bay Hotel, which is a 184-room commercial hotel.
My name is Jeff Charles. I'm the director of Buckeye Bahamas Hub. Here at BBH, we are one of the largest marine crude and refined petroleum storage services in the world.
My name is David Scantlebury. I'm Chief Executive of the Grand Bahama Shipyard. We're the largest industrial company in the Bahamas. We repair over 100 ships a year.
My name is Randy Thompson. I'm the CEO here at PharmaChem. We look for those biopharmaceutical companies who develop and the research and the technology for pharmaceutical products. So the current product that we're manufacturing, it's a bulk API, and it's for HIV, AIDS treatment.
Grand Bahama, despite some challenges, is an excellent place from which to do business.
We're 60 miles away from the world's largest economy, and that gives us a huge advantage and a huge benefit.
Grand Bahama is actually bigger, almost 2 times the size of the island of Singapore. We only have 50,000 people. They have like 6 million people, so there's so much potential here to bring in people and really expand the economy.
One of the biggest advantages to investing here in Freeport is that there's no corporate tax. That obviously is a big plus.
Being able to purchase raw materials, import them into Freeport duty-free, that's all a significant benefit.
This is, after all, the industrial capital of the Bahamas.
We realized that there was a big market in Grand Bahama for people coming here for a reason. Our industrial sector, business, government, people who are not coming to lie in the sand and flip over every 20 minutes.
The climate is good. It allows us to work 24/7, almost 365 days a year.
I think if we attract small to medium-sized businesses as well, they're the backbone of the economy.
You know, we want to be part of the change in Grand Bahama. We look at the glass as half full.
You got to have a vision. You got to be able to believe in that vision, even if it seems rough. At some point in time, I think you just got to keep moving forward.
Think out of the box.
Creating a process that says truly we are a one-stop shop, that creates a timeline that says within 2 months we are going to guarantee that your business will be up and running in the Bahamas.
We need to find a way of getting people here more cost effective so that it becomes cheaper for the traveler to get here.
It's a great location, a great climate, well-educated people, warm and welcoming people. But to be on the global stage, you have to act globally. You have to recognize that you need to bring in people from all over the world. You need to bring in equipment from all over the world. You need that expertise.
It's great having local partners to help you get through it.
You really have to get involved in the community, get involved in the island, so that people actually see you as a solid investor that is here for the long term.
We're building a distribution center that is bigger than all of the buildings we've done thus far.
I think one of the biggest things for investors is to come to Freeport, see it for yourself, do your research, speak to other businesses, speak to the community, and also speak to the government, because you do have that amount of access here.
And when I think about the future of Grand Bahama, I think about healthy reefs, I think about thriving communities, and I think about a really cool place to do business.
So we're trying to change the narrative, and that's why we're fully invested in not only that project, but we have a lot more on the drawing board. So we're going to continue to invest in Grand Bahama.
I'm the eternal optimist.
I think it's a pretty unique place to do business in the world.
But some of the new things that are being talked about, like the technology hub, I think that's pretty cool.
If everything works out right, in a few months' time, 50% of our rooms at Pelican Bay will be brand new, fresh, totally renovated, new bathrooms, etc. So we will have a new, fresh product.
Future of Grand Bahama? I'm actually quite optimistic. If you put those four things together, you know, economic benefits, infrastructure benefits, geographical benefits, and social benefits, you know, I think we offer a very complete package to potential investors.